Seasons of the soul, the room. The room did not come by invitation, it came by longing, a silent pulling deep within, not forced, not scheduled, not even fully understood. There was no clear doorway, no clock striking a special hour, only the stirring inside, a shift, an ache, a breathless sense that something unseen was near. And so the soul moved, not with certainty, not with demands, but with hope enough to cross the threshold. The room was there, as it always had been, waiting, still, alive in its own quiet way. Dust floated lazily in the soft beams of light shining through a high unseen window. In the center stood an old movie projector, humming gently, not impatient, not eager, simply ready. A single chair faced the blank white wall, worn but strong, as if it had carried many before. On a small table beside the chair lay an open book, its pages stirring slightly as if moved by a breath the eyes could not see. The air carried no fragrance, but felt thick with kindness, the kind of kindness that does not hurry, does not scold, does not leave, the kind of kindness that simply is. The soul entered the room, carrying questions, regrets, memories, hopes, and fears all tangled together. There was no guarantee what would happen here, no promise that answers would fall from the sky, only the knowing, deeper than words, that God was here, that He was listening, that He would be present even if He did not speak. The soul sat. The projector clicked once. A soft flicker danced across the white wall. The story was about to begin, not because the soul demanded it, but because the soul was ready to see, ready to remember, ready to trust again, ready to walk through the seasons of the soul. The hum of the projector grew steadier, and the first scene flickered to life. A barren tent under a blazing sun, a man pacing outside, a woman laughing within, both straining to believe a promise too long delayed.
Chapter 1. Waiting on God's Promise. The hum of the projector deepened, steady and sure. The soul in the chair leaned forward slightly, drawn in without force, only by the quiet ache inside. The screen flickered to life. Abraham and Sarah. The desert wind lifted the flaps of a worn tent. Abraham stood outside, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the exhaustion of hoping. Each wrinkle on his face told the story of long days spent gazing at an empty horizon. Inside the tent, Sarah laughed, a sound sharp-edged with both bitterness and pain. Could hope survive when decades passed without an answer? Their bodies, once full of strength and expectation, now ached with age. Their dreams, once fresh and alive, now faded into a whisper. And yet, the voice had spoken. I will surely return to you, and Sarah your wife shall have a son. Genesis 18 verse 10. Abraham tilted his face toward the sky, where stars once numbered the promises he could barely believe now. Waiting was not passive. Waiting was a battlefield. Man's perspective. The soul in the chair felt the weight of Abraham's years. They could almost hear his questions. Was it really God who spoke? Did I misunderstand? What if I missed my chance? Maybe the promise wasn't for me after all. There was no clear sign. No movement in the womb, no outward proof, only a memory of a voice and a decision to believe or surrender to despair. Waiting was more than time. It was trust, stretched to its breaking point. God's perspective. The room shifted slightly, as if breathing. The voice of God spoke, not loud, not commanding, but steady and sure. I was not delayed. I was building something greater than they could see, a nation, a people, a covenant. Their waiting was not wasted. It was woven into my eternal design. I was not late. I was preparing them to receive what would carry my glory, not just their joy. God was not absent in the waiting. He was working in ways unseen, in places untouched by human hands, waiting for purpose. The scene shifted. A modern city skyline blurred into focus. A young woman sat at a small kitchen table, head bowed over a worn notebook. Pages filled with prayers, dreams, plans, and long spaces of silence where God had yet to answer. She had said yes to the call years ago, or at least she thought she had. She had studied, prepared, prayed, wept. She had applied, auditioned, volunteered. And still, the door stayed closed. Opportunities passed her by. Others were promoted while she waited in the shadows, unseen. Maybe I heard wrong, she whispered one night. Maybe I'm not enough. The silence of God was louder than any storm. But what she did not see was the ground beneath her heart breaking open for deeper roots. Was the breath of God strengthening muscles unseen? Was the timing of God weaving her story into something bigger than her dreams? Waiting was not punishment. It was preparation. Reflection in the room. The soul in the chair closed their eyes. They felt the tightness in their chest, the familiar ache of waiting to become. They whispered into the stillness, "Are you really working, even when I see nothing?" And in the thickness of the room, not a loud answer, but a soft reassurance wrapped around them like a mantle. I am. I was. I will be. Trust me beyond the silence. The projector slowed. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the soul, not of emptiness, but of holy expectancy. The next story was about to begin, but for now the soul sat still, not because the waiting was over, but because they had found God in the waiting. In chapter 1, Waiting on God's Promise, the room was still. The story of Abraham and Sarah, of waiting and wondering, had settled into the soul like rain into dry ground. And now, the soul understood. Waiting was not a delay in God's plan. It was part of the design. Faith was not measured in minutes, but in moments of quiet surrender. And when the waiting lingered, God had not forgotten. He was preparing in the silence, in the stillness, in the soul. The promise would come, not always as expected, but always on time.
Closing prayer, chapter 1. Lord, in the places where I wait, help me not to grow weary. When silence surrounds me, remind me that you are still speaking, even if I can't yet hear the words. Teach me to trust you when nothing moves. Remind me that your timing is perfect, not delayed, not lost. Strengthen my heart to believe again. Let my hope rise, not because I see results, but because I have seen you. And that will always be enough. Amen.